I am appealing to motorists or anyone who was in the vicinity within the period of 4 to about 5 p.m. That is Thursday the 8th of June, to drag your memory. Check your dash cam to see if you observe a female with multicolor top and blue knickers or denim walking anywhere within this vicinity with a young child, possibly carrying a knapsack on her back. It is important that we really collectively as a nation pool our energy together to ensure that this case is not one of those that is placed on a shelf, but that the person who is responsible is brought to justice. All of us as Jamaican, we have a duty to ensure that this is done. Most of us that are standing here, we are all parents, and we understand what a child means to us. And for that child to be killed in such brutal way, it must hit the nerve of every Jamaican.
Reserved for the worst of the worst. Ladies and gentlemen, this imbalanced law justice system is ridiculous, and the moment it should be reserved for the worst of the worst. Ladies and gentlemen, this imbalanced law justice system is ridiculous, and the most just and appropriate outcome is the death penalty. That the death penalty may save is your very own. I thank you.
Has not fully grasped what the moot is speaking about. The moot speaks about capital punishment, my apologies, in a Jamaica today, which means present or future. They talk about our national heroes in the past, etc. That is not modern. Modern Jamaica was posited by my first speaker that speaks about what is happening to Jamaica today. We see where brazen criminals are walking around with AK-47s, shooting security guards in their backs. That is the Jamaica we have today. And the laws we have on the books speak to these crimes. Now, the opposition constitutionality that the death penalty is not constitutional, but I will remind everybody here today that no court or international body that Jamaica has ruled that the death penalty is unconstitutional. The Privy Council itself oftentimes reiterates in all the cases, Chandler, Pratt and Morgan, that the death penalty has a place where it is warranted for the most heinous crimes. They talk about rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is good. Rehabilitate petty thieves, etc. But where it comes to the grievous crime of death penalty, rehabilitation does not work. Human rights, the right to life, etc. Our foremost human rights person, Flo O'Connor, we can all remember her, was adamant for right to life. But when the murderers turned up on her door, she said hang all of them because she had lost her loved one. Now let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the team MOF identifies that we're living in a modern Jamaica dealing with a different type of criminal. The death penalty is consistent with human rights law. 72% of Jamaicans want the death penalty. Our laws prescribe an exhaustive time-bound process to confidently and irrefutably convict capital murders and apply the death penalty where there is forensic evidence, DNA, etc. Without the death penalty, vigilantism will spiral. Jamaica has a high recidivism rate. The death penalty is appropriate for aberrant behavior, and most importantly, it is costly. Monies that could have been reallocated to other things. Bustamante Children's Hospital could do with that $19 billion right now to build a new wing. So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with this quote. Lord Hewitt said, It is not merely of some importance, but is of fundamental importance that justice should not only be done, but should manifestly and undoubtedly seem to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, I represent Team MOF and I rest my case.
Mr. Chairman, we won't waste our time talking about who is wrong, but we are a little bit confused by many of the things that were said by team opposition. Someone shooting somebody with an AK-47 in the back does not constitute the rarest of the rare and the worst of the worst. And those are the conditions under which the death penalty is administered in Jamaica. You mentioned costs. I'm not sure if you are aware, but it costs less to rehabilitate someone than to put them to death. The cost for trials, going to the Privy Council and the appeals and going to the UK, getting counsel, staying in a hotel, those costs must be factored in to someone appealing the death penalty. Rushane Barrett, we weren't really supposed to call him name because the judge said don't call his name, is not a typical case. But I'll tell you where the loophole is in your argument when you spoke about the fact that all he had to do was to plead guilty and voila, the death penalty disappeared. Let me correct you where you speak about the death penalty and you spoke about beryllium and all these cases. Those cases would not constitute the rarest of the rare and the worst of the worst. And forgive me for getting graphic, but a landmark case, Trimmingham versus the Queen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is used by the Privy Council and was used in a Jamaican case to overturn the death penalty. Forgive me for being graphic. The gentleman was, the back of his neck was sawed to bone. The front of his neck was sawed. All of his blood, and after that his head cut off. It did not constitute the worst of the worst in that case, and that was used as a landmark case by the Privy Council to say the worst of the worst is not what you have paraded up here as the worst of the worst. Therefore, they do not qualify for the death penalty. Neither would St. Thomas, because the gentleman did not kill anybody. He molested the young ladies, and we hurt for them. However, you can't be going back and forth and talking about the death penalty in some cases, not in other cases, and then trying to determine how that goes. It just doesn't work that way. We must remember the death penalty as it stands is given under specific circumstances. We have not gathered the statistics necessary in Jamaica to fully assess our numbers. So yes, you found some numbers, but it's not enough. And what we're saying is the justice system is not at its most efficient. They are working. Our Chief Justice is working, but it's not at its most efficient. And until it gets to its most efficient, we cannot be killing people willy-nilly. When you talk about the cases that don't exist and beyond a reasonable doubt, there were quite a few cases that were proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but they were still overturned. Lessine Edwards, Neville Lewis, give me another one, my team. Mr. Taylor, Desmond Taylor. Many of those cases were overturned. It means then that when new evidence was found, those persons were taken off death row and given life imprisonment. As a matter of fact, some of them walked free. My third speaker spoke about it. So let us be sure, when we're talking about the death penalty, be sure what we exactly mean. This is not to say that our courts are inefficient. We have an inform of the dead culture in Jamaica. The police is not getting the best out of people. They're not talking about it. And so the death penalty is not being applied as we would like to think it's being applied. There are 43 people on death row in Jamaica. So your thousands really are not adding up right.
I am appealing to motorists or anyone who was in the vicinity within the period of 4 to about 5 p.m. That is Thursday, the 8th of June, to drag your memory. Check your dash cam to see if you observe a female with multicolor top and blue knickers or denim walking anywhere within this vicinity with a young child, possibly carrying a knapsack on her back. It is important that we really collectively as a nation pool our energy together to ensure that this case is not one of those that is placed on a shelf but that the person who is responsible is brought to justice. All of us as Jamaican, we have a duty to ensure that this is done. Most of us that are standing here, we are all parents. And we understand what a child means to us. And for that child to be killed in such brutal way, it must hit the nerve of every Jamaican.
See cameras being installed or electronic gates or security guards, the ministry must put in place the resources to ensure that these measures can be implemented. So, Madam Speaker, I wish to assure the nation that the moral line is still strong. I think the display here in the Parliament shows that we don't intend, Madam Speaker, for these kinds of crimes to somehow just occur, and they don't intend, Madam Speaker, for these kinds of crimes to somehow just occur and there is no public outrage. There must be public outrage against it so that the moral standard is defended. And so I'm very happy, Madam Speaker, that members of the Parliament have stood up and have spoken in the way that they have. At the same time, Madam Speaker, the government has to take tangible and direct and instrumental measures to ensure that these terrible, terrible instances of abuse and violence, fatal violence to our children, does not reoccur.